What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Welcome back to the full-time view, where you can call in, you can have your say. Whoa, it was getting a little bit feisty in the studio there, wasn't it? Many of you would have been redirected straight in here straight away from watching the match view, and my goodness me, a little bit prickly between Flex and KG, wasn't it? I guess that will continue on the full view tomorrow. This is not the full view, it's the full-time view. But certainly, guys, we can continue that conversation here when it comes to Marcus Rashford. How long should he or shouldn't he be involved for with all of the stuff going on, the illness, the absence, whatever you want to call it, the internal matter, as Eric Ten Hag said. Yes, we'll be chatting about that. Of course, there was a match, FA Cup 4th round, Newport County 2, Manchester United 4. Thoughts on it as people start to file in? It's Man United this season, isn't it? Really, it's not a pretty watch. At points, it's you start off the game pretty well. You create chances. You score a couple of goals. You should score more goals. You don't take the chances that you make, and then the opposition comes back in. And let's be honest. I mean, I know it's the FA Cup and anything can happen, but there are points in the game where we're getting outplayed by a League Two side that's mid-table or lower than mid-table. And United weathered the storm in the end, but it's not good. Like, it's not. I mean, as the title says, United narrowly avoid embarrassment. They avoided embarrassment in the sense that they didn't go out, but I'm not sure they avoided the embarrassment of, having a 2-goal lead, going back to 2-2, and being on the ropes a little bit, certainly. I sympathise with Rasmus Højlund. I know he scored his goal today, but my goodness me, I would be so frustrated if I was him, with 2 wingers either side of me and Anthony and Garnacho. I know Anthony got a golden assist today, but he still was Anthony throughout the majority of the game. Alejandro Garnacho, I don't know if they've got some kind of underlying issue with each other, because frankly, Garnacho just refused to pass to him or try and find him at points. It was just like Man United this season. It's just a tough watch. It's a really difficult watch. And you never know with cup competitions. I mean, the next round, we'll have an away tie against either Bristol City or Nottingham Forest. If we go away to Forest again, I'm a bit concerned because of how we played last time we played Forest. If it's Bristol City away, I mean, they're in the Championship, I think, right? You never know. Look how we fared this evening. But it's a win, and you move on to the next round, certainly. A reminder, guys, though, this is the full-time view. You can call in. You can have your say. If you are a member, you want to become a member, you can do so. Links in the video description. It's also the pinned comment in the live chat. You can click the join button and become a member there as well. By the way, some people asking, because recently we've had a lot of gifted memberships, and you sometimes see in the comments people say, how come I didn't get gifted one? Now, this is something I only found out the other day. You have to have switched on enable gifts. So next time someone gifts memberships or something like that, go into the chat, click the little stuff. It's usually like a green bar, and click enable gifts. Some people don't have it switched on. If you've got it switched on, then you have the possibility for it being gifted out. Some people don't have that thing switched on, so make sure you do next time people gift memberships as well. If you are a member, though, and you want to call in, you can have your say. Go to the United View YouTube channel, go over to the community tab. The link is there only for members, and they can call in. They can have their say. Let's get straight to the calls this evening. Let's start off with Chalaboy Comics. Chalaboy Comics, good evening. What was
good evening, Owen?
Today?
It was fine. It was fine. I think we have to accept where we are as a club, and that is, at this point in time, we're in crisis management mode, and so pretty much we're just trying to avoid the next crisis, in the next game, because any loss, it's Ten Hag out. We have issues off the field, so I'm just happy that we won. I think the shining lights of today was the fact that we had a lot of young players on the pitch doing well, and they were all in some ways involved in the goal. Maino gets his first goal with a brilliant finish after some good work by Dello. We got Anthony actually scoring and assisting, with an amazing finish by Bruno Fernandes. And then, it was just a really good outcome, even though the performance itself, like you mentioned, was a bit shaky. But again, I think a lot of the problems we had was decision-making in the final third. You mentioned Garnacho not finding Højlund. There's some cases where Højlund is running in the same sort of lane as Garnacho, and they just haven't figured out their communication. Shooting when you're meant to be passing when you're meant to be shooting. So there were a lot of opportunities that we created where we got to the final third, But because, as I've mentioned it a ton of times, we have really young players in those positions, and they're just gonna have to take time to find their feet. But I think it was about just getting the job done. And I think the commentators said it. They said it wasn't great, but it was good enough. And I think that's how I feel. We made it through, and I'm actually glad the game happened in this way, in the sense that we had to fight back, and it wasn't just like easy coasting, and we have like we think we're better than we are. It's like, okay, this is what happens when a team applies themselves. Newport were outmatched, but yet they weren't outfought. And when you fight and when you put in a lot of effort and you take risks, some good things can come. Yeah, they lost 4-2 in the end, but they gave us a run for their money. And I think it required us to at least struggle a little bit, just to sort of humble us and realize, okay, if we're going to go through in this competition or in any game going forward, we have to work and we have to fight. So, I'm not impressed, but I'm happy. Yeah.
Does that? I mean, you say it's fine, and I get, and this is the thing with, I guess, football fandom, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, look, we won and we're through, and that's ultimately what really matters.
That's all that matters.
But we are playing a League Two side, that's not even doing well in their league or anything like that. And you look at our side we put out today, bar maybe one or two players, that's our strongest team with all of the injuries that we can possibly do now.
Well,
Does it concern you that, like you said, they had a bit more fight than us, and if they had a bit more quality, that result could have been completely different today?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a concerning a little bit, but I want to caveat that with, yes, the team was strong on paper, and we should not have been losing to Newport, and we beat them. So there's the outcome that was expected. However, I want to just caveat that by saying that it was Casemiro's first game back, Martinez's second game back, Luke Shaw's first game out in absence. So fitness, was always going to be a potential issue, and just sort of chemistry building. Bindia's first game, he was a bit shaky with his distribution, even though his passes, he executed them well. It was almost like, ooh, he just managed to pass to the defender. So I think there were a lot of, as Ten Hag says, routines that need to just come back in. So yes, I am concerned a little bit, but I think I don't want to overreact and be too angry today, because I know where we are as a club. We're not very good right now. So how can I accept that fact, but also expect everything to be smooth sailing going forward? We're gonna have these rocky patches, and the hope is that as these players come back to fitness and we start getting our routines down, that it will improve. That's the hope I have to have as a fan. Am I concerned? Yeah, because a better team definitely beats us. And I think the main thing I'm actually concerned about, because I know there was some talk about Anthony. Anthony, I think, is not the best player in the world. We all know that. He's not 100 million, but he was trying to do things. They were trying, but he wasn't succeeding, but he tried, and he scored a right foot finish and had an assist. So I think that was good. So I'm not going to complain about that. What I will complain about is the mentality of the squad, because this is it's almost like a running joke where after halftime we concede all the time. Just I don't know what's happening. It just goes to show that's a complete lack of focus, right? So I don't know if that's on Ten Hag or if that's on the players, but that's what's concerning. It's the way, the manner in which we concede is always the same, straight out of the halftime from set pieces, and then defensive transition. So I'm concerned about that, and the hope is that with better players on the pitch, with our first team back, with Casemiro's experience, we'll be able to sort of resolve that. But yeah, it's a bit concerning, but I don't want to overreact, because right now in a crisis mode, when your team needs confidence, the last thing you want to do is to tear them down for winning a game they should have won. So
Finally, Marcus Rashford, of course, didn't play today, was ill. Eric Ten Hag said it's an internal matter before the game. Obviously, we know that The Athletic and quite a lot of different outlets have said he reported ill to training Friday. He was out Wednesday and Thursday, flew back the Friday and reported ill. Where do you sit on all of it? And the match view, it was very heated, with KG and Raf essentially saying, if this is the game that he's been sat out of, he should be back for Wolves on Thursday. Flex is saying, no, it should be longer, because it's not about how good the player is. It's about that they've broken the rules and they've, brought the club, I guess, into some form of disrepute or undermined the manager. Where do you sit on all of it?
So I will quote Antonio Conte and say, it is unacceptable. And I will quote Arteta and say, it's a disgrace. I honestly think these actions by Marcus Rashford it's so disrespectful to the club and the manager, because what it does, it also puts undue pressure on your teammates, because now you're having to rely on younger people playing whole games, bringing in players like Anthony. He's not as good. We need a sub. We don't have Rashford to bring in. I think it's completely disgraceful what he did, and it just shows that he's too big for his boots. He thinks he's better than Man United. It's a disgrace to the badge, and I'm with Flex. I'm putting the hammer down, and I'm giving him like 2-3 games out, fine him a couple weeks wages, because you just have to show that these sort of things can't be accepted. Because if you're trying to form a winning culture, that those actions can't say. And I'm not saying don't go out, because we all know all the legends of the club went out, but Roy Keane will go on a pisser the night before, but report to training the next day and have an amazing training session. The fact that he called in sick and was shown partying for 2 nights straight, that is beyond me. And if I'm Ineos, I'm looking at this matter and wondering if we should be moving on from Marcus Rashford, because he clearly has shown he's disinterested in this club. And I'm with Flex on this one.
A big up, Channel Boy Comments. Appreciate you calling in as always. Yeah, when it comes to the Rashford situation, because I didn't really have an opportunity to sort of talk about it that much. For me, I was furious when I saw it yesterday. I really, really was. And I can't say I'm surprised by what I'm about to talk about now, because I guess it's just modern day social media. But I am surprised to an extent by the sort of apologists about Rashford, and the argument that, and this is a genuine argument, people have said, come on, it's not like you've never pulled a sickie. Well, yeah, of course, everyone. I think everyone has, but I don't think everyone's on 300 grand a week when that's happened. And for Marcus Rashford, when he scored against Spurs, to go and give that to the crowd as if they stop talking. But mate, you're not showing up to training. You're not playing well. It's one thing if you were doing it last season, but it was like, I tell you what, Marcus Rashford. But it's the complete opposite. And I find it wild once again that we beg for standards and we beg for players to be put into line. And then when they step out of line, we kind of try and make excuses for them for why they've done it. Now, one thing I will say is I do find the behavior quite alarming, in the sense of I hope everything's okay with him, because, you have to consider the personal aspect of it. But I thought it was completely unacceptable, honestly, as a football player, professional athlete, just in general. I mean, I do agree with the sentiment that I think it probably happens way more often than we would like to know about, and it's hidden quite a lot, but it's unacceptable. And I completely disagree with what KG and Raf were sort of suggesting by saying, well, he's one of our best players, we need him back. If you send that kind of message to the squad, you're one of our best players, we need you back in, then you can't get angry when in the future they step out of line again, because there's no repercussions. There's no punishment for when they break the rules. There has to be checks and balances. And if you don't do that, then it's already going to be anarchy. I think a lot of people in that squad have ego problems and chips on their shoulder, and you cannot allow them to get away with that, in my opinion, certainly. Let's go to some more calls. Let's go to Show. What did you make of the match this evening?
Come on, Owen, let's be honest. Today was a disgrace. I don't know what Channel Boy Comics is on, but like today was an absolute disgrace. We're playing a League Two. Let's put it into context, right? League Two side, 3 leagues between us and them. Did we look 3 leagues above them today?
Not at all.
And that's the issue. That's why it was a disgrace. Because it's not even like we're playing, not that it would be acceptable. We didn't play the leaders of the League Two side. What are they, 14th or 16th in League Two? So they're not even good in their own league. I just thought, look, people keep saying it's all the result that matters. I've heard this all season. It's a result that matters, When are we going to see a bloody performance this season? And today was a perfect opportunity, because you're playing against the League Two side. Let's give the fans a performance this season. Just one. And today is a good opportunity. And it's not like, let me ask you, Owen, do you come out of that going into the Wolves game thinking, I'm confident for Wolves away on Thursday after watching that today?
Oh, of course not. But I've been saying that after every game, this season. The only thing I will say with it, and I think this is maybe the pushback some will have, for instance, you look at, say, Maidstone yesterday. they beat second in the table Ipswich in the Championship away from home. Like, it can happen. You know, the FA Cup is a leveler, isn't it? But I agree with you in the sense of that's our best team. Ipswich made 10 changes as well yesterday to their team. That's our best team back from injuries. And this is what I've been saying. It's no different. And I don't think it would be any different.
You've raised a key point there in that was our, people I've been hearing all season, when Casemiro, Martinez and Shaw all play in the same team, what you're going to see a massive difference. I didn't see any difference today. Absolutely zero. I think the only reason why we come through that game today is just because of the fact that we are a Premier League side and they're a League Two side. But I don't think I can't look at that performance today and say, you know what, I liked the patterns of play. I liked how we played out the back. Some of the set pieces we took were good. How we defended was good. I can't say any of that because at times Newport cut us open today, and I'm thinking, hold on, if Newport's doing that, we're playing against Pedro Neto on Thursday. He's going to be having a laugh. So listen, I just think and the most embarrassing thing for me at the end, which I don't know if people clocked, going 3 at the back at the end to hold on to the 3-2 against Newport.
Bringing Johnny Evans on.
Bringing Harry Maguire on for Anthony to go 3 at the back. Bringing on Evans and come against Newport. This is 18 months into the process. We're going 5 at the back against Newport. And people are saying, trust this manager, trust the process. I've never been so embarrassed in my life, honestly.
Where do you sit with the Rashford stuff? Obviously, lots of people talking about that. Didn't play tonight. Where do you sit with that? Do you think, like KG and Raf were saying, he should be brought back in pretty quickly? Do you think that there's got to be a bigger conversation about him? Of course, there's a big conversation about him anyway this season with his performances being really poor. What's your reaction to it all?
I mean, look, Marcus Rashford's been a disgrace all season. This is just another incident in a long line of incidents for him. I just think United have got themselves in a difficult situation with Rashford now because they put it all on him, giving him this massive contract. He's clearly gone the other way with the contract. He's not really pushed on. It looks like to me that he's got the money, and people will say he cares about the badge, he cares about the shirt. If you care about the badge, if you have a 2-week break, you don't have the 2-week break and then wait for the first training session on coming back and then go out partying if you really care about playing. Because if you get caught, you're not going to play. So this thing of let's punish him by not giving him games, honestly, Owen, I don't think he gives a shit. I think if you told him you're not going to play again this season, he'd be like, all right, mate. Because he's getting 300 grand a week. Why does he care? Why does he care? And people, I think a lot of this fan base think that he cares more about the club than he actually does. I don't think he does. I think he's got to a stage where he has all this PR around him. We've made him into the superstar that he was never meant to be. And he's living life. And I just think it's got to a point where if we're going to be if we're really talking about Ineos coming in, ripping it all up, let's start the culture from the beginning, we got to get rid of this guy in the summer. He's got to go.
I think he also is quite interesting because if you really want to look at the last, let's say, 3 seasons in totality, he's had quite a antagonistic relationship with the Man United fans. I mean, you look towards the end of sort of that Ralph period of time, he's arguing out with the fans outside the stadium, and then he kind of just sort of dissipated and out for the rest of that season. Then obviously last season it was great, but even towards the end trickled off, and then this season it's been really, really bad. It's an odd one, isn't it? It's a really odd one. And I mean, do you see any sense of him sort of turning it around? Can you see that happening? I mean, I suppose some people didn't think he was going to turn it around last season, going into the season, and he did for a period of time, and then he kind of come back to where he was. But it's kind of like he's gone even lower now. Is he even lower? Actually, this is a good question. Is he lower now than where he was? That before Ten Hag came in towards the end of that season. Is he back at that level again now?
Yes, because the thing is, in that Oli Rangnick season, it was just everything was a mess. We didn't have a permanent manager. Honestly, that's not an excuse, but he also wasn't in favour under Rangnick, to be fair. But I think Ten Hag's actually tried to play him a lot, and also the fact that that he's got this contract, it makes it worse because he's seen as one of the senior players now. He wasn't back then. He wasn't 2 years ago. We had Ronaldo then, remember?
Yeah.
So It is a lot worse. It's definitely a lot worse, and it's only gotten worse as the season's gone on. That's the thing. It's not gotten any better. And it's like you said, Owen, earlier, you said it perfectly. How can you have the season that you're having? You shush the crowd after scoring, and then you go out literally after that game. It's after that game, 2 weeks after that game, you then go out partying. It says a lot about how what you feel about the club. It shows a lot of disrespect to the club and a lot of disrespect to the fans. And I just think, I don't know what you do with him, because I would love to say, me personally, I just think get rid. I just think he's another player who's bad news. We've not raised him the right way. Since he's come through, I just think we've put this kind of superstar kind of thing on him, which he's never been that. And now he's this person, which maybe he wouldn't have become that if we had handled him properly from the beginning. But now he is that. I just think, why pursue with someone who isn't as good a player as he thinks he is?
And look, it might be a situation a bit like a Jadon Sancho, whereby it might actually be best for him. Sometimes when you have to take into the player's situation as well, go, actually, this might be the best move for him to take a step away from United, because, like I said, I saw it yesterday and I was furious by it, and going to be really interesting to see the reaction from the club. Certainly, big up show. I appreciate you calling in as always. Got a super chat here that I didn't get to. Red Baron says our younger foreign players are more mature. Talking about yes, the lack of maturity in some of our players. What's the chat here saying at the moment as well? Colin says Rashford is sulking. Red Devils 99 says Ollie called it when he called out publicly to focus on football and on the pitch and not outside. JK says Rashford overrated and a big part of the old era problems. Get rid. Lil Yo-Yo says arguably yes, Owen, this is the worst I've seen him. Philip says Rashford and Anthony on 600k a week. Good lord. Rashford's over 300. Anthony's on something like 200. I mean, yeah, when it comes to Anthony, look, he got the golden assist there, and I actually think he did better than Garnacho. But in terms of long-term options, it's still not that. Let's go to Lil Yo-Yo. Lil Yo-Yo, I saw you saying that today's changed your stance on Erik ten Hag. Do you care to explain?
This guy's going to sack himself this summer, man. He's out. He's done. For me, it's not good enough. This is Newport. I was going to come in with a creative line about us smoking on Newports today, yeah? But we can't even do that. You can't even light the cigarette. It's dead.
Kind of sort of health warning-ish, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's kind of...
Yeah, but still, like, this Newport, League 2, it's unacceptable. Like, I looked at Anthony today, even though he scored and he got an assist, the amount of times I was screaming at my TV screen, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Ah! Garnacho, don't even get me started on him today. Unacceptable.
Yeah.
Unacceptable.
Do you sympathise for Rasmus Højlund playing for his side? Look, he's still got a goal today.
Yeah.
I've had people go, Højlund, I don't think he's it. Can we even make a judgment on Rasmus Højlund? Because today's an example, he didn't get any service.
And that's why I have to question the manager. Like, what is he telling his wingers? His wingers need to feed Rasmus Højlund, but Garnacho today was so selfish. I don't know what he was doing today. Half the time he's just running into 3, 4, 5 players and just taking on shots when he doesn't need to, when he needs to support and feed Rasmus Højlund. It's unacceptable. It's not good enough. It's not Manchester United standards at all. And
this is now your Erik ten Hag out now. Is that you've settled on it? Or you just actually, damn. He's
gonna go. He's gonna go. Like, I don't see us sacking him right now because, I mean, it's not going to make a difference anyways. The season's pretty much written off, in my opinion. If we get far in the FA Cup, fantastic, great. But if not, so be it. But I don't see this guy lasting long. He's going to sack himself. Let him go.
I think this has been kind of my prediction for the last, however many months. And they did the shot, didn't they, today? You saw Dave Brailsford lingering, like he was in like Phantom of the Opera or something like that, high above, staring down like that. And he likes to talk about marginal gains. Marginal games are like those tiny little, percentage points that if you just improve, they'll get success. There's nothing marginal about Man United. You know what I mean?
You need wholesale gains.
Yeah, it's not marginal gains. It's not like a percentage point. It's like, man, we're talking huge percentages here. We're looking at 25% needing to be improved
easily
or bettered. So my prediction has always been that I think that we get to the end of the season, and I think inevitably, regardless if we're doing well, we're doing badly, or we're doing indifferent, there will be a conversation to be had, because it's just natural that there will be that conversation to be had. And I agree with you in the sense of, I think that if you look at these performances like today, I mean, we've got the Wolves away next on a Thursday in the Premier League. If we play like that, we will lose that game. In the same way that when we played like Nottingham Forest away, you go, well, if we play like we played against, I think the away game before that was West Ham. But if we play like we did against West Ham where we lost, we'll lose that game. We lost that game. So going into that game against Wolves, I kind of know what to expect, which is kind of what we got today, really, which is, opening 20 minutes, pretty good. Couple of good goals, should have taken more chances. Garnacho should have squared it to Bruno, made it 3-0, but he didn't. Yep. And then they get a goal back. You could argue it's a bit of luck or a bit of brilliance, because it's a volley, deflected, goes past the keeper. Okay. Half time, we're slow, they score. Next thing you know, we're on the ropes. And as we spoke about earlier on, if it's a better team, that's not a League Two team, they probably get another goal, And,
exactly.
And that's the worry. That's the worry, isn't it?
My biggest concern, even more than the manager, is these players. A lot of these players are not good enough. They're not Manchester United standard. And Ineos have to clear out the shot. Just get these prima donnas out the club. I know you've been speaking about Rashford today. Yes, I agreed with Flex 100%. I'm with Flex 100%. Like, you have to set the standards at the club, and you need to be consistent. If Marcus Rashford needs to be suspended for a Premier League game by the manager or by Manchester United as a club, you have to do it, because you cannot allow mediocrity to keep coming back into the club by allowing players to go out and do whatever they want, party or whatever, and then come back, report ill when you should not have been out the day before training. It's not acceptable.
Yeah, because it's kind of, and this was what was interesting, I thought, with Raf and KG's argument. And I saw Raf do this early on, where he was saying basically, yeah, but what if he is ill? And you sort of go, I think maybe some people are speculating about, was he even ill? But it's kind of beside the point, isn't it? It's that, well, if you are ill, then chances are you got ill because you were out and about, in a nightclub, flying around all over the place. But even just separate that. You cannot, the night before training, you cannot be out on the piss. Like, it kind of seems crazy for me to say that. But isn't that it's common practice, is it not? Because even if he wasn't, even if he didn't report ill and he was in training and they went, oh, you do realize though last night he was out, that would still be a problem. That would still be a massive issue. So yeah, I don't get it. But what do you make of someone like the Rashford apologists, shall we say, the people going, oh, Lil Yo-Yo, so you're saying you've never pulled a sickie, have you? Yeah.
But still, there's a difference here. You are playing for Manchester United, one of the greatest clubs in the world, period. You need to take your job seriously. If you are genuinely sick, then it's a different matter. But if you're sick after pulling a night out, going out, doing whatever, then you have to respect yourself and not do that. This is Manchester United. We need to be at the standards where we should have been back in the days. We need to be the best. And if you're doing this and you're not performing, it's not good enough. And also, who's Rashford security? Like, how are you allowing all these random pictures and all this news to get out? Like, you ain't got the right people around you. How have you not got serious security to not have all this madness out here? Like, it's not good enough.
You say the people surrounding you, and that was something I was going to bring up too. Who are the people surrounding him just to suggest that would be a good idea? Like, that's okay,
Exactly.
Them going, hey, Rashi, should we go out tonight? So you should have those people around you going, you take seriously? You got training tomorrow? No,
exactly.
It'll be fine. No, it won't be fine. Enough. Yeah, no, it's just, it's standards and it's professionalism, isn't it? And that's the problem. Do you think he apologizes? Do you think we get a Rashford statement or something like that?
I'll be honest with you. I have no idea what to expect anymore. Like, as long as standards are being kept and Erik ten Hag is being consistent, I couldn't care less what Rashford does. Erik ten Hag cannot have Rashford starting the next game against Wolves, in my opinion. Otherwise, he is a flip-flop and he should definitely be questioned if Rashford comes back into the squad against Wolves, in my opinion.
It's going to be interesting.
Because otherwise, then we'll go back and forth about the whole Sancho thing again. Because he was out. Sancho was out because he wasn't performing to the standards. If Marcus Rashford is not at the standard of Manchester United, you should not be in the starting lineup, in my opinion.
And what message does it send, right? It's
Exactly.
unacceptable, but if you're good, we'll play you, you know.
Exactly.
And some people say, well, that's life, but it can't be good enough. Not at Manchester United. Absolutely. Big up, Lil Yo-Yo. Appreciate you calling in, as always. We've got a members chat from Keegan. Has been a member for 19 months. Says it's the same thing year after effing year. These wingers don't support the strikers. They are selfish AF. This will be an issue until Erik ten Hag ships on them. Yes. I did feel bad, like I said, for Rasmus Højlund, because you could hear him. The thing is with those games, at those small grounds, you hear everything. And he cut such a frustrated figure at points this evening, because you can just tell he's looking at Garnacho, he's looking at Anthony going, come on, like, please, please. Kevin with a super chat says, Rashford angling for a low move to Dortmund. Well, could you imagine? A late Rashy move. Oh, this is the interesting thing. This is why I kind of bring up. I would think, given how public Marcus Rashford is in terms of, you know, putting statements out on social media and what have you, I'm surprised to an extent that there hasn't been some form of a statement from him yet. And I would be stunned if we don't get one. He will put something on social media at some point. And I don't think he's got really a leg to stand on. There's no way he can push back or anything like that. He has to apologize. How could he think that is acceptable? And again, it's not even necessarily for me, the whole is he or isn't he ill. I don't really care about that unless it's serious, obviously. But I mean, I don't really care that much. For me, it's about, you cannot, the night before training, if you're out in a club, which you shouldn't be anyway as a professional athlete, the minimum is next day, ill or not, you got to show up. Absolutely, you've got to show up. And even so, that's just, I'm pretty sure there are rules in place about that, to be honest with you. Let's go to another call. Let's go to Daniel Luciano. What were your thoughts on the game this evening?
Unbelievably tough, unbelievably disappointing, and I know this is Casemiro's first game back, but he just looks as slow as ever. Like, he didn't make one well-timed tackle, and it's a League 2 side. Like, that just can't be happening. I think Garnacho's getting a lot of hate, but I also feel like we need to remember he's a 19-year-old player, and he is creating a lot of opportunities. He should have crossed it, of course, but I just think he'll learn. And then when it comes to Anthony, he is getting a lot of hate, and I can't say that we should celebrate him scoring with his right foot when it was about 3 feet out, because that's a big technicality. But I just think unless he's playing like prime Robin, these cut-ins and then these shots that could go anywhere or just rolling to the goalkeeper, it's just not good enough from our right winger.
Yeah, does that worry you that, you know, he's so predictable, Anthony, then he cuts inside every time, that even against a League 2 side, they can quite easily defend against him? Does that go to show, again, I guess, his level of quality against an opposition like that?
Well, I have to say, like, he is getting the opportunity. Like, he is creating the option for himself. So he is getting by the defender. Like, that's not the issue. It's his finishing. It's just like, and he's so quick to do it too. And it honestly is, when he gets kind of at that angle, he really doesn't have, like, he can kind of do a tough cross if he really tries it, but it really is shooting. I would just love to see him by the byline. Like, I just want Ten Hag just to be like, you have to go at least twice to the byline every game before you shoot. Like, just set some kind of goal for him, because it's just the same thing again and again.
Yeah, you mentioned Casemiro as well. That's an interesting point. I don't think we've spoken about him enough. Obviously, he's back in, and I know it was his first game for a while. And it's funny with Casemiro, because social media always like to say he's really fat. they were doing it against they were going, Casemiro, look at the size of him. But we have done this quite a few times this season with lots of different players, haven't we? Said when they're back, we're going to be fixed, no problem. And we kind of forget with Casemiro that he did play earlier on this season and he struggled. So should we expect him, I guess, still to struggle now that he's back? Because is there realistically going to be any change in his performance level? Is he going to struggle just in this system as it is?
Listen, I listen to you every morning, and you always warn us about, don't wait for them to come back. It's not all going to change. Don't get your hopes up. But I did it. I did it anyway, because I got excited at the Casemiro-Mainu partnership and kind of like going to produce. But I just don't think he has it. Like, I just think he clearly is on his last legs and he's ready for that Saudi move to make the money and then retire. And it's so sad to see because of what he was for us last year. But he's like having poor tackles against such a lower league that really just, he's not going to be able to cover for Mainu, who's still learning. Like, we saw that pass he made today that kind of left us open. I just don't think he's going to be able to cover for Mainu and kind of be that role that we need for him for the rest of the season.
Do you think that's partly on him and in his, I guess, physicality declining, or is that when people start to look at, say, the manager and say, well, everyone's going to fail in that system and Casemiro is going to be no different?
I think that's on him. I think Aaron Teknala can take responsibility for a lot of things that happen on the field. But that's on him. Like, I just really specifically watched him today, just continuously kind of barge into a player after the ball is gone, or just really kind of not be able to catch up. So kind of just get a bit of the player. It's on him. Like, his physicality is just not there anymore. And I don't want to be saying this because I really was, when he returned, I was like, oh, he looks a little bit lighter. Like, maybe he's going to be a little bit faster and still good. It's just, that's not what I'm seeing on the field when he's playing.
And finally, where do you stand on the Marcus Rashford situation? Are you in the flex camp, which is saying no, he needs to be out the team longer for him being out, or are you in the KG camp saying, look, we need to get our best players back in? Where do you sit on it?
I don't know what KG is talking about when it comes to our best player. Like, we love the guy, but what is he on about? Best player? Like, he has not been anywhere near our best player this season. And then even last season, he scored 30 goals, which is amazing. Amazing. But we weren't debating for him to be our best player last season. Like, it was really between Casemiro and Licha. Like, I don't get, I just, honestly, I was done with Rashford even before this kind of drama came out. Like, he's just not producing. And it's sad because we've all seen him grow up. And, we love that story of, youth academy coming into the team. And he really did look so good. Like, I honestly think 19-year-old Rashford's better than now. Like, in some ways, just in terms of his instinct and his explosiveness and his not overthinking or slowing things down. I've just already been done with Rashford. So the fact that he did this, I'm just like, what are you doing, man? And I would jump at an opportunity for him to be sold. Because I just feel like, because it's Marcus Rashford, because he's an academy youth, because he has scored goals and had some really wonderful moments for the club, we all just have this kind of allegiance to him. But it'd almost be better for everyone if he was moved on. Painful, but better.
Interesting stuff. Appreciate you calling in, Daniel Luciano. Excellent call. Let's go to another call. Let's go to Santiago. There you go. Good evening, my friend. Good evening.
Hi, good evening, Owen.
Good evening.
How are you?
I tell you, I'm good. I tell you what, you have some familiarity to the Manchukushna, but I think you're different people. I think different.
Well, it's I think today is not one of those days where we want to say that the time is now, but
I was trying to keep your secret identity going.
It's not really, I mean, if it's not really much of a secret, I think it's just kind of a for all those who don't know, it's just a gag that I pulled for KG's channel, and it just so happened to be funny. So
tremendous. What did you make of today, though? What did you think of the game?
Oh man, what a frustrating game. One thing that I wanted to point out is, why has Erik ten Hag not switched Garnacho and Antony sides? I mean, the assist from Antony came in from the left. We know that, if he's on the left-hand side, if he's going to be whipping crosses in, if he's going to be, cutting back, he's going to be more comfortable on that left-hand side, right? Garnacho, same thing, right? He's right-footed. And so therefore, you would think that logically, if you're going to be cutting in and doing all that stuff, rather than doing the whole inverted winger thing, just not providing a service to Højlund, we can't even say, is he good? Is he not good? Because, so I think that's kind of one of the most frustrating takes that I had from it. Especially kind of seeing like that particular highlight. As soon as Antony just so happened to be on the left, he got an assist. So that's just, one of the things. And then I also wanted to touch on the Marcus Rashford thing. I think it's interesting because it's not hard if you're in any professional job or whatever, just say, hey, I'm going to take a couple of days off. I need them either personally or I'm going to go be visiting a school, whatever, like, and just talk to your boss about it, right? And I don't see there would have been absolutely no issue him being in Belfast for a couple days and even being seen in public saying, "Hey, I'm not playing. I'm just taking a couple days off. I need some personal time, whatever." Like that's all it needed to be said, right? I have a feeling that Eric Ten Hag probably found out about it, or just got wind of it. And as we know, he protects his players from the media. He said he's ill. That's all we're going to talk about it. That way, he can just kind of nip it in the bud. And then it blew up in his face as soon as all the evidence came out.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because Eric Ten Hag said he was ill initially in that press conference, and then social media started to say, well, actually, people in Belfast started to say, well, we saw Marcus Rashford out on Thursday, so that's strange that he's ill. And then I guess Man United, initially understood it as, oh, no, that was on Wednesday. He's out on Wednesday. So clearly the club has been told one version of events and is now finding out another version of the events, maybe the actual version of events. And if that is the case, that's almost even worse, isn't it? Because not only have you, gone out the night before training, then you're ill, you're not, well enough to go to training, but you might have told the club something that actually isn't the case. You lied to the club. And if that is the case, does that make it almost even worse? Because there's almost deception involved as well.
Exactly. Like I said, it would have just been much easier to just go directly to your boss and say, "Hey, I need to take, X day and X day off because of whatever reason," right? You can even be honest and say, "I need a personal day." It's not, I mean, unless, Eric Ten Hag is
Although if he said, "Oh, I need a personal day," and he goes, "You need a personal day. Why were you in a nightclub last night?"
Well, yeah, but you know what I mean? Like it could be for any reason whatsoever, right? Like it's just one of those things where, I think honesty is probably, just the easier way out of getting yourself in trouble at work. And especially when, I think pretty much everybody can say, whether it was at school or, at work or something, that, they've all had a day where, you don't feel like turning up to work and, or just for whatever reason, you need some sort of outlet and you need that time or, and I understand, we're not professional footballers. We're not getting paid anywhere near to the amount that Marcus Rashford is. And if you are, please let me know what you're doing with your life. Cause I need to know.
Yeah.
So, but that I feel like that's just kind of like, he just did not approach it correctly. And it's just one of those things. It's a perfect coaching moment for him. It's a learning opportunity, but at the same time, in order for it to be a learning opportunity, he has to realize that he's not beyond reproach.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think the reaction is going to be then from Ten Hag? Do you think he's going to bring him back in quickly, or do you think he's going to stay out the side for a little bit longer?
The problem is that Garnacho's performance today did not make it an easy decision, right? I think if Garnacho had a fantastic game, just, if everything had run smoothly today, I think, you could easily say, well, Garnacho's in form. He's doing what he needs to be doing right now, and we don't need Rashford to come back immediately. I can go ahead and play him against Wolves. It's kind of a tough decision. Personally, I think, just miss one extra game. It is what it is, but at least just make that just kind of as an example, just because you can't have the other players thinking, okay, well, Marcus Rashford can get away with whatever he wants to do. So I think it's just one of those things, like even if it's just for like a technicality, even like maybe a half a game, like he did last year?
Yes, against Wolves, ironically enough. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Finally, obviously, we had the some big players back: Casemiro back, Martinez back, Luke Shaw back. Do you first of all, was it what did you make of them coming back? And two, is are we going to kick on? Do you think now that they are back, or are we still going to have the same problems that we've had all season?
I think it's a confidence issue. I don't necessarily think. I think a lot of it is probably the fact that the players, being their first game back, whether they were 100% fit or 100% confident in their bodies to play to the level that they wanted to. I think it's a couple different factors. At the end of the day, we got the win. Like it was an ugly performance. We should not have been playing the way that we did, but ultimately we still won, and it's a good kind of step to build up on. I think it's one of those, I think like Casemiro, he's getting older. His body might just take a little bit longer to get back to fitness than he would have, a few years ago. And so I think that's going to play a factor into being like, okay, maybe I still need to take it a little bit easier, and I still need to gain that confidence, right? Because if you're not confident, especially at sport, you're gonna, just that minor little lack in confidence, even if it's something like that's in the back of your brain saying, okay, well, I can't really push myself to 100% because if I do, then maybe that muscle injury or whatever he was that was going on with him is going to be nagging back at me. And I think that's kind of my perspective on it. So at the end of the day, if it continues to be a problem, then we'll say, okay, something's going on, and kind of go from there. I think it's just kind of getting back into the rhythm of things. It's the first time I think this season we've actually seen that back four, which is crazy to think about. We're well into January, and so I think of that, and I think buying beer. I like the fundamentals for fundamentaling. I like what I saw. Just throw that out there. But hopefully, even though he let in a couple goals, I don't think his goals were necessarily at least the first goal. Nobody stops that. It was a rocket of a shot, deflection. So I think it was a good debut, and another positive. Kobe Mainu, first career goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. Big up, Santiago. Appreciate you calling in. As always, long-time member, supporter, and alter ego superhero. Maybe. I don't know. That's a rumor. That's a scuttlebutt going around. Clark Kent is Superman. Bruce Wayne is Batman. I don't think Santiago's Mancutioner. I think they're different people. I think it's a rumor. Daniel Luciano with a super chat as well says, appreciate the chance to voice my views. Thank you, Owen. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for being a member as well. How many likes are we currently at the moment? We currently have over 500 people watching. Only 133 likes. If you haven't already, click that like button. Be sure to subscribe. Bottom right-hand corner. How many subscribers are we on actually at the moment? I know we're very, very close to 160,000. We are less than 40, 37 subscribers away from 160,000. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, click that notification bell. You'll be notified indeed when we go live as well. Here we go. This is perfect. Mancutioner says, who's this Santiago guy? And what did he say? Why did he say the time is now? So yeah, I think that confirms the rumors. I mean, I thought that was the case. So I thought, well, surely not. So it's fine, no problem. Let's go to Sean. Sean, what did you make of the game? I saw you were talking about Casemiro as well. You wanted to defend him. What did you make of Casemiro's performance?
Owen, I would have to push back on a couple of points that were made in some of your earlier calls.
Yes.
Look, I think that Cas, he didn't look fit. I agree with Daniel. I think it's kind of obvious when you come back from a huge injury layoff. He didn't look completely himself. But this is where I've gone to again and again. I remember telling you this to you before as well. I do not understand this concept of having two very, very advanced midfielders and leaving one person to defend along with an inverted fullback. Now, obviously, a lot of people will say, well, that's how City do it. That's Manchester City we're talking about. This is Manchester United. It's not the same thing. I mean, as much as I love Luke Shaw, I don't think he's as good as an inverted fullback. I don't think Dalot can invert that well, even though I do agree that he's a very good footballer. Now, what happens is today, look, Kobe Mainoo's profile is not of an advanced playmaker. He's not an advanced player. He's a central midfielder who's defensively oriented. And if you played Kobe and Cas together in sort of a line, then Cas wouldn't have everything to deal with. And I think you pointed this out correctly before. This has been happening before in the season as well. And instead of Kobe Mainoo, it was Mason Mount, who was streaming alongside Bruno, having two number 10s and leaving Casemiro to deal with on his own. That's why he got the yellow card to begin with. So as much as I agree that the fitness is a problem for Cas and it will get better, if Erik ten Hag doesn't change the system, I really don't see a difference happening. And as somebody who works in sports analytics, and I will get back to this point when we're talking about Rashford, we've been conditioned, even when we speak with football clubs, even when we speak with football players, we always ask about their formations. But as of this day, modern football doesn't just rely on formations. It relies on player roles. It relies on players knowing exactly what they're supposed to do at specific moments in time. That's how the elite clubs function, Owen. And for me for people to blame Casemiro for that, I just don't agree with it. I don't think he had the best game. Of course he didn't. I don't expect him to have the best game right now. And yes, he probably has regressed. But to put the blame squarely on him and not blame the system, I think is kind. I don't think it's the right thing to do at this moment in time.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because that's the sort of discussion point, and I do tend to lean to your point of view with that, because I think it would be one thing if, you know, we had been playing the system and it only didn't work when Casemiro was playing. But we've seen how many different midfield combinations this season. We've seen Casemiro, we've seen McTominay, we've seen Eriksen, we've seen Mount, we've seen Kobe Mainoo, and all of the time the gaps have still been huge as well. I think, like you said, I don't think he had his best game today. And like you, I sort of went, you know, you're throwing in some big tackles against the League Two side because you're getting caught out. But then it gets into the territory of, are you getting caught out because you're too slow, or are you getting caught out because, you know, the system's failing you as well? So I think that's an interesting point. You mentioned Marcus Rashford, obviously absent today. Where do you sit on the Rashford issue that's blown up over the last couple of days?
I mean, before I tell you about my viewpoint, I would just like to say, if you would allow me, one particular incident that has happened with me at my job. As I said, I work in data sports analytics, and I happen to work with my company happens to work with a lot of football clubs. And I'll tell you a particular incident of a German football club. I'm not going to name the club, of course, but it's not like a Bayern Munich. It's a club which is upper to mid-table, you know, if you will. And one of them players at that club, who's, by the way, been at the club for a long time. I'm not talking age, I'm talking seniority. He was caught one time, right? Just one time in the afternoon having a drink, right? That got circulated over the social media. And believe you me, when we were talking to the club at that point, they were extremely agile in firstly making sure that all of this was rubbish, and secondly, making sure that the player was reprimanded in front of the whole team by not just the manager, by the head of sports science as well, but by the director of football as well. And they were told that if this happens again, they're getting sold straight on. And this club is not even 100 times the stature of Manchester United. How we can allow something like this to happen to begin with is puzzling to me. I'm not even going to go in on Rashford, because if I do, then there's going to be a whole barrage of stuff coming. Most of it might not be just pleasant. But this has happened way before. This has happened with Sancho. And I think Eric Ten Hag is trying to establish standards at this football club. And I remember listening to Ben Foster talk about this, who obviously used to play for Man United. He mentioned the point that if there was even a single a bib left on the training ground after a session, then the senior players, the likes of Guy Neville, the likes of Giggsy, the likes of Scholesy, would literally ream that player out in front of everyone and say that sort of behavior is not acceptable and that should not ever happen again. Those were the standards we were used to. Eric Ten Hag is obviously doing his bit to try and get to that standard, but Ineos now need to show that they're about something. And look, I don't know what the solution with this is. I would agree with a lot of players, with a lot of speakers, that selling him would be the best option at this moment in time. But right now, he needs to be dropped. A statement needs to be sent out. We cannot have players on humongous wages rewarded for one good season who have thought themselves to be bigger than the club. The Rashford brand is bigger than Rashford the player. This has been so for a long time. For crying out loud, he was responding to Twitter compilations. He was responding to Twitter beefs. Mate, concentrate on your own game. Stop doing this. I mean, it's just not acceptable, and it frustrates me so much that a club like Manchester United has allowed this culture to fester for year after year, and the managers have been the fall guys because of it. And it should not be allowed to anymore. Whether it's Eric Ten Hag, whether it's somebody else, Jim Radcliffe, I saw Sir Dave Brailsford in the crowd today, and I just don't mean him, or my brother, Jean-Claude Blanc. They all need to step in and say enough is enough. This culture should never be allowed to foster again. It's like a tumor. It needs to be removed. And I'm not just talking about Rashford. I'm talking about the mentality of a lot of players in that squad who think they're bigger than Manchester United. And nothing will ever be bigger than Manchester United.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, Sean, that is a heck of a call. That is a heck of a call. I don't think we can follow that one this evening. That's proper. That's proper. Big up, Sean. Appreciate you calling it as always. And he's right. I totally agree with him. I must be said before I wrap things up that when Rashford did the celebration, we spoke about it on the Full Views whenever it was, a few weeks ago, and he did that thing. And we started about chatting about it on the full view, and it really rubbed me the wrong way. That celebration really upset me. I was just annoyed me. I didn't upset me, but annoyed me. And I remember at the time, some of the reactions of people on the panel was, who really cares? It's only a celebration. Because the reason it bothered me so much is because when you've been playing that badly and your attitude feels quite indifferent, then to tell people, stop talking. Well, why are they talking in the first place? That should be what you should be thinking about. Why are they talking so much about me? They're talking so much about you in a negative light because you're not playing well, because you've got a new contract based off, a purple patch in the season prior, and you've not improved. You've regressed. You've gone back to it. And your response to it is to be antagonistic towards the people that they want to cheer for you. Everyone watches Marcus Rashford. I think all Man United fans want him to succeed. They want him to be like he was last season. So to be, again, antagonistic, who's talking? They're talking because you're not playing well. Do your talking on the pitch with the goals. Do that. And then afterwards, to then do what he's done now, I just think that it's so unacceptable. And ill or not, it doesn't really matter for me. I just think that image, that look of, he's a senior player as well. He's meant to be, if anyone's meant to get it at Man United, it's meant to be Marcus Rashford, right? Manchester United through and through. He's a local lad. If you're a local lad and you think that's acceptable way to treat the shirt and treat the club and treat the manager and treat the fans, then, like I said earlier on, I think he needs to get some better people around him. My only hope is, and this is the sort of part of my brain that I think sometimes fans, we don't maybe think about that often, is I just hope there's nothing else going on surrounding him, because if there is, and he thinks that's the way to deal with it, then that's very concerning as well. But Man United have no choice. They have to act, with disciplinary action, because the more you hear about it, it's just all angles of it are bad, aren't they? Whether it's let's look at the different scenarios. Scenario one, which is he was so hungover that he couldn't make training. That's bad. Scenario two, which he did go out the night before. He didn't get drunk or anything like that, but he just got ill because of it. Well, that's still bad. You caught illness. Three, again, he just thought he can get away with that. That's bad. Or needs people surround him. Any scenario doesn't work in this instance. I'm pretty sure, again, there are rules against it. So for me, like I said, I think it has to be a disciplinary matter. And if it was me and I was in the hot seat, I wouldn't have him in the squad against Wolves. I do think that the best way to approach it would be that he has to apologise and then they move on. But I still do think there have to be punished. Has to be punishment as well. But there you go, guys. Appreciate you calling in. Appreciate you tuning in to the full-time view. When will I be back for another one of these? Thursday. I'll be back Thursday for another full-time view after the Wolves game. That's going to be a late one because it's like an 8:15 kickoff or something like that. What's on tap in the next couple of days? Well, tomorrow we'll be live as always, 9 a.m. Transfer View. We'll be live later on in the day as well for the full view. That will be at 7 p.m. And then we continue on with some big games. We've got now. This was the first game in the space of 7 days. We've got 2 Premier League games now. We've got Wolves, and then we've got West Ham, I think it is. So a big couple of days. Anyway, be sure to smash the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Bottom right hand corner. I'm out of here. I'll speak to you again very soon. Peace.